But the opening ceremony of the display of the flags, each church, gathering, fellowship, brought their banners. And this was seeing this was an absolute high point. So we're going to turn this over to Cathy because she was keeper of the banner.
I was, and it was a wonderful experience. Although I quickly discovered that we need a little bit of adjustment on the back of the banner because we had this pole we had organized, and you were supposed to have it hang from the end of the pole and carry the pole like this. Well, I discovered we didn't have slits in the back to hang off the pole, so I'll have to talk to you about it. But it was still wonderful, and what I did was I grabbed April, and the two of us walked through the parade just carrying it, and that still worked. We were part. And it was, yes, and it was wonderful. There were, I don't know, maybe 300 banners.
It was over 300. I counted, I didn't put it in my notes, how many different churches were there.
Yeah.
And it was
It was,
one of the high points.
it was absolutely incredible to walk in there. We missed some of the ceremony itself because we were in the hall waiting to walk in. But when we walk in and there are thousands of UUs and there's a central aisle that we're walking down and everybody's singing and clapping and there's music and, you know, taking pictures and that kind of thing. We
Yes,
didn't get a picture
yes.
because we were shepherded in the different direction. But it was still just a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Yeah, they directed us around in different aisles and
Yeah.
it was fun.
And then afterwards, they took the banners and hung them on different places around the arena. And you may have seen the picture on the Facebook page of the four of us who attended with our banner. We found our banner, which was really good.
And I've got pictures of a lot of the other banners. You know, they were just absolutely outstanding.
One of our favorites it looked like it had been hand woven and with the design woven into it and just some beautiful, beautiful stuff.
And ours was pretty awesome.
And ours was
Well,
very,
thank
actually,
you.
I thought ours was
I
gorgeous.
did repair it, and I did put the tabs.
Oh,
on the back
okay.
of it.
Yeah, that's all we needed was tabs.
Okay.
I thought ours was beautiful, and I really want to thank Wilma for creating this.
You're welcome. It got a lot of publicity, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. We're very pleased with the banner. And it was, this was a real highlight of the conference.
Well, you did a good job on that.
Yeah, thank you.
You created the design, Wilma?
Well, I'll tell you what, Kelly and I worked on it together, and she had the material, we sat down and drew the thing, and then I sewed it together. So, it was quite an undertaking, so I can't take all the credit
Well,
for
it's
it.
lovely.
But still, you did the sewing, and it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
And worked on the design, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes.
April, I think.
Okay.
Give us some.
You were gonna do the overview?
I'm
Betsy?
going to do the broad themes, but I can do that a little bit later.
Okay, okay.
One of the things that we did at General Assembly is the business section, and I thought, instead of focusing on broad themes right this minute, I'll turn it over to April, who will tell you about the business portion of the material.
Betsy and I were your delegates, and we tried to coerce Cathy to occasionally substitute, but we're not supposed to transfer your credentials. And it was very interesting just to see how they conducted businesses. When you voted, you held your card up, and there were people that walked the aisles counting. And occasionally there was a recall on the votes. They voted again, you know, on some issues. And so it was very interesting, but Cathy refused to get up and go at 8 o'clock in the morning, or we wanted to stay in bed.
Kathy, being no fool, said, we have to go through this whole procedure.
But let me just mention that for me, it was just absolutely awesome. We had a fourth of our voting members there. The four of us were there out of 22 members that can vote. And I mean, I bet there was no other congregation there that could say that. We also kept in touch. We were texting and calling each other, and Nina and Cathy also came to a lot of the delegate assembly issues, and Also had opportunities to sit in on workshops that were conducted to inform you on the issues that you would be voting on. And those were very important to us too. But it was very difficult to even choose what it was you were going to. When the delegate assembly was in session, there were no other workshops going on. So there was no other choice. I mean, that was what you were there for. Or when they had the church services, the worship services, there were no other competing. But at other times, there were so many competing topics that it was very difficult to choose what it was we wanted to go to. So I was very fortunate to, and all of the workshop resources, all of the resources for the entire GA are online. You go to UUA and just type in General Assembly 2016, and up comes a ton of resources for us. Draft minutes were available of the business sessions that we attended and participated in, which was a good thing because I was like, what was the decision on that, you know? So, okay, so one of the things that was voted on was determining what was going to be the study issue or the action issues that were going to be studied in the coming years. And there were 4 different topics that there were workshops on, and there was quite a bit of discussion. Time was limited during the presentation of these. The first was climate change and environmental justice. And we learned at GA, we are now referring to it as climate crisis. We are right at the tipping point. We are at the crisis point. I was a little taken back, and there was history related to the leader presenting this issue. I felt he was very ineffective. And because this is a huge issue in our minds. And in earlier years, all of these issues, all of these topics have been discussed. They have been issues that the UU has discussed. This particular topic was withdrawn by the leader and asked that support be given to racial justice.
Do what?
Racial justice.
He dropped the issue. He asked that the issue be
On the
dropped
climate
and not be considered.
Yes.
He
He had, basically, I had gone to this, and my impression was he had not done his homework, nor was he aware of the federal government regulations or state regulations in the regards to this, and he just didn't have he didn't have enough information to even support it.
And
I was really dismayed.
Yeah.
And then he yanked it off.
Yeah.
Because he just didn't.
And national conversation on race was another issue, and there was quite a bit of interest, of course, in support for that topic. Ending gun violence in America was a third topic that was discussed and considered. The one that won was on the corruption of our democracy. And I was like, wow, that is a topic being considered. And let me read a little bit from the presentation. And all of the information on all of these was in the back of our program. This is the program. And as we would go into the hall where most of the large sessions took place, we were handed different issues. For example, the topic on democracy, well, these are a different topic, but anyway, it was revised. And so it was important that you get the updated versions. Well, I need to talk about something else. Okay. And I wanted to read a little bit about what was in the statement, position statement. UUs have identified escalating inequity, racial justice, voting rights, immigration, reproductive justice, marriage equity, and as major moral concerns. And now climate change looms large. So that was just in a capsule, what was being included in this broad topic. So consideration of this issue is really what led to my desire that we become much more active, particularly before the election. Just asking people to think about their vote. Don't just go vote from an emotional level, but actually think about, how can we be best served? There's so much at stake, and I don't think we have ever had an election in which choices have been so divisive in our population. So that was the one, the democracy, corruption of our democracy.
Can I add,
Sure.
as a person who was not a delegate, I can tell you, I don't think the climate change resolution was gonna win anyway. And in that sense, I didn't mind as much that he withdrew, but I still was annoyed, because I know we were planning, you guys were planning to vote for it.
Because that was the issue we had picked for social justice
Right.
action.
But people who were doing the democracy did make, as April said, made the case that when you don't have the right to vote, it affects all of these issues. And we really need to look at that.
Yeah, and they felt like that gun control and racial justice and in a lot of affects the climate, as we're seeing now with the issues that are being discussed by the candidates. We're seeing that climate is or is not, a part of the agenda.
Well, 3 things got overturned as far as voting rights this past week,
Right,
so that was.
Yes,
which is a good thing.
absolutely.
Which is a
Yes.
good thing.
Wonderful, yeah.
And Citizens United and all of that, I mean, that's what this is all talking about.
So they won't do anything on the climate?
It will be, but it's going to be incorporated into the corruption of large business on the people that are living. We're disenfranchised and as a result of corporations.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
effective,
and so it's
large corporations
covered.
buying votes and influencing
Yeah.
legislatures. So in that sense,
And
it is
that's
going to
what
be
was talking
included.
about with this. By,
Do you agree with me, it's too late?
No.
Okay.
Wilma just mentioned NRA, and I noted that William Barber included NRA in his remarks, that we cannot continue with
Right.
this alliance.
Oh, and I wanna put out there that we have a third-party candidate, Charlotte Britt is running for governor.
Yeah.
For those who don't like the Democrat and Republican choice in this state, which I do not, they're both Republicans.
There were 2 proposed business resolutions that were discussed. One of our delegates says that will go nowhere, people love Thanksgiving, so. But what was asked was that Thanksgiving Day be reconsidered, that we reconsider how we celebrate Thanksgiving. And I said, I did this with my early childhood students at Concord. Take a look at Thanksgiving celebration from the viewpoint of the Native Americans who were here before the Pilgrims got here, and take a look. So, and it was then resolved.
They're not saying get away with it, they're just saying do a thoughtful.
Rethink it.
That we encourage
Right.
all UUs to enter into a time of education, careful reflection, healing during the years 2016 to 2021. And that special attention be given to the suffering, indignity, and losses that the Native people have suffered since 1600. So that did pass. The second one, there was a tremendous amount of discussions, and I'll call on the folks that were here, that were there with me on this, and it was screening our investments in corporations complicit in violation of human rights, including Palestinian rights. And let me go ahead and read a little bit of this position. Named corporations, and I'll tell you those, have committed severe abuse of human and legal rights. They supply the Israeli military with tools and services for demolition of homes by the military, biometric identification, expansion of Israeli settlements, surveillance of Palestinians, seizure of Palestinian farms and orchards, and prisons that hold children and political persons without due process. What I found of interest in the minutes and in the other readings that I was doing was that UUA had already divested of the corporations that were named in the early draft on this statement. It was revised and those companies' names were taken out. However, I still had those names in my program. I have already made certain that these companies are no longer in my investments, my personal investments. Let me share with you what those are. Caterpillar, Motorola Solutions, HP Inc., Hewlett Packard Enterprises, G4S, and Exxon, because of their human rights issue in Palestine. The resolution did fail to pass, but there was quite a bit of emotion from people that were there representing Israel or of that heritage versus Palestinians. And one of the really neat things about GA is it was not just, as we've already said, not just UU ministers, but there were all different religions that were represented, and different Christian ministers that were included on the panels, in the issues, and in the congregation, at large, that were there. That's all I have to say, except, and I think Kathy, you wanted to comment about the call on the clergy to calm the vote. At one point that it was so heated, the tension.
Oh, yes.
And this was fascinating to us, that they asked for the lead minister assigned to the delegate. There were several ministers that were assigned to officially serve, and she was called on to calm the group, to
Yeah.
speak.
That was good.
And you want to talk about?
They call it right relations, and that's the group of ministers that handle conflict.
Well, just to get a little more background to what you were saying, one of the arguments against passing the resolution was that it wasn't needed because they'd already divested from these particular organizations. One of the arguments was it would send a message that we were not supporting Israel. So someone tried to amend it, I think did amend it at one point,
Right.
to include that this does not mean we do not recognize Israel's right to exist. There were Jewish people speaking on behalf of it, saying that they
Yes.
they did recognize that there were these issues going on. There was a big concern about the message it would send not only to fellow Jewish Americans, but also to other organizations that support the right of Israel to do what it wants. And I would say that my Southern Baptist brother said, as he's leaving the family reunion after that, and I'm not even gonna talk to you about that resolution that you all wanted to pass to promote Palestine. I'm going, what? And he didn't have time to talk about it, and he was been moving, so we haven't talked, but I'm still gonna get back with him, because they are very pro-Israel.
They're pro-Israel, but they hate Jews.
Yeah. And I said, but it was a human rights issue and it's on both sides, and he doesn't see it that way. He
I
just
don't
sees,
get it.
in his view, Israel only is defending itself when it's attacked. That's not what we
That's
were
not
hearing.
true.
So it was a
They
very
cut the water off, they've
interesting.
done everything.
There was the one that in some ways I kind of liked, but it didn't go anywhere, was somebody tried to expand it, take out the including Palestinian and just expand it
Yes.
nationwide.
Yes,
I mean, worldwide
Worldwide, yeah.
to human rights. And somebody else said, but then it doesn't mean anything. So it was real, in the end, it didn't pass. And I think it's gonna continue to be
but there were
something we're discussing.
there were three votes?
At least three, I
At least three delegate votings on that issue,
Yeah.
because the votes were so
So
close.
close.
Yeah, and that's where, I think that was one where they first did just a visual,
Yeah.
hands up, then they did, no, we need to count, and had people walk along. Because some of the votes were so overwhelming, they didn't need to count, they could just see that there was a sea of yeses or a sea of nos, and they just, but some of these they really had to count, and they were almost ready, I think, to go to a
Yeah, written,
written ballot on that.
they
So-
did.
But they did, they decided it was enough. They also had people voting online, off-site delegates voting, so that was interesting.
People attending at home.
Yeah. There was just, the ministers coming in and doing, and they also did some music, I think, to kind of
That
bring people together again.
breathe.
And that may have been where the breathing meditation came from. Anything else that, Betsy?
That's you're doing the.
I'm doing that. Anything else in the business resolutions before we go on to the meditation? Okay. One of the things they did, and I believe you may be right, it may have been during this time because it was such a heated thing. There was this song they played, none of us had ever heard before, It's in the new SLT supplement. And I found a track of a group from an Orange County UU group singing that we're gonna play, and we're gonna do it. It has 2 phrases in it. It's kind of a round. It has 2 phrases in it. And one line that people can just repeat over and over is breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. So people can just do that. And then there was another line that people can sing with the first line. It's called, when I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. And we're gonna play that. And maybe, Dave, what we could do is play it twice, because it's pretty short. That, number 3. I'm sorry, it's number 3. Same CD, number 3.
April, could you include in the next newsletter the companies that we should try to
Yeah.
avoid supporting?
Yes.
So it's on CD 2, track number 3.
I'm gonna do that early. I may just-
Yeah, that's it.
3.
Yeah.
We also have a list of Koch brothers.
Couldn't find
products.
it, where's that Temptation one you were?
It's coming
Koch
after
brothers.
this.
Oh, it's on the same?
That same one, yeah.
You-
I have
you
that
did?
list.
Yeah, so,
I
yeah,
meant to
so.
type it up and I didn't.
Okay, here we go.
Can we do it again? And can y'all see?
I like that.
Isn't that wonderful?
It really diffuses when emotions get high.
Yeah.
This Right Relations group had several of these kind of instances where we were able to de-escalate so well that people were more relaxed. It was just phenomenal to be able to see the intensity of the emotions become diffused through.
Well, the Christians support Israel because they see that as the second coming of Christ.
Yeah.
That's why they are pouring money into Israel.
Okay, so can you play track 3 again, Dave?
I'd like to ask an
Just look weird.
off the wall question. What percentage of male, female was the attendees?
I don't know exactly, but I'd say pretty
Just a
divided.
guess.
Pretty divided.
It was pretty even.
Pretty
It
even.
was pretty even, yeah, it was pretty even. There may have been 60 male, 40% female, but it's hard to say. It was very evenly balanced, it seemed to me.
Even with the youth,
Mhm. There were a large number
it was
of youth
over
present.
200 youth were there.
That's good.
It was wonderful to see that many youth. Yeah.
Okay, so take whatever line you'd like to take as we go through this.
normally, if you go to a UU, it's like 60/40.
That's what I was thinking, it was pretty
Yeah.
close. But it was pretty close.
It's too short.
I know. We sang it much longer.
We sang it much longer.
At GA, let me tell you. Took quite a while.
Yeah. The broad themes I'm going to address at General Assembly. One of those is we are better together. And that relates to our Central Eastern Regional Group. The United States has been broken down into groups, and it's for the administration purpose of supporting congregations. There are large congregations, there are small congregations. There are congregations that may meet occasionally, but they're out in the field doing certain things during the week or on weekends. So a congregation is not our traditional congregation gathering in a setting such as a church, a home. It could be they're participating in doing an activity so there are many different forms of UUA gatherings that we can look at. One of these to sustain the UUs is looking at the future of liberal religion as being multi-faith, encompassing multi-faiths. The president of UUA, Peter Morales, has talked about the interfaith ministries, and he has several articles in the UU World of Summer 2016. If you have it, you can find that there are articles about how to incorporate multi-faiths as a congregation and as a group. And this multi-faith allows us to be better and more effective at social justice. So we're now looking at what are ways we are able to work on social justice, and in that regard we had the wonderful William Barber that you've heard April and Cathy talk about, and his book is The Third Reconstruction, and it talks about being able to work together. This is a topic I think that we probably should look at for one of our services during the coming year, talking about. He is a magnificent speaker, and let me just quote what Marion Wright Edelman has to say about him. The Reverend William Barber and his allies are at the forefront of a new movement for justice that our nation's children and families desperately need, and the book presents a blueprint for moving forward together. And that was it. The other issue on multi-faith is coming this September, and the UUA has an adult guide, a discussion guide on this. And this is Defying the Nazis. It's a Ken Burns film. It will be shown on PBS, and that is coming in September. So that
It's about a UU couple who saved children from Nazi Germany.
so I think it's
Oh, Charles
interesting.
Ford.
And we may want to think about doing
Yes.
something with the local Jewish community around this and other groups around the release.
It's the end of September.
There also is a book on interfaith leadership. It's a primer. It's by Ibu Patel, and it's available in the UUA.org. And then you go to their bookstore, which is also called Now in Spirit, and you can get a copy of that, Multi-Faith Leadership. And the effort of a multi-faith leadership is to eliminate hate, to consider Black Lives Matter, the Unitarian Universalist stance on that, as well as standing on the side of love. You will see that there are 3 of us with t-shirts standing on the side of love. Nina is standing on the side of love also. She just doesn't have the t-shirt. She has it. And Nina, tell us about what you have, because this is important. We don't have these, so what she has is something really special.
I particularly bought this for doing same-sex marriages. So I thought that was really beautiful.
Absolutely.
And my necklace has the different religion symbols on it. And it's nice. I have a couple of these, but they're not colorful like this one, so I really enjoyed that. And I didn't buy a t-shirt because I don't like t-shirts, and I have 10 million of them, and I don't look good in t-shirts.
All right, Kathy, you wanted to talk about a session that you thought was really important to you. We're going to cover the rest of the sessions, I think, next Sunday,
Well,
because time is running out. But I think you should be able to hear from Kathy, who will not be here next Sunday.
right. And maybe you two could pass around the program so you guys could get some idea of what we had to pick from and narrow things down to from. Maybe,
I got a program too.
okay, so
And
just pass.
mine's all marked.
And I don't know where
Mine
mine
is
is.
too.
Mine has disappeared in
Mine
the
is
house.
really marked up, but
Yeah,
it's marked up.
yeah, and, well, mine is too, wherever it is.
I'll read Liz.
Yeah. As April said, the mornings were the business assemblies, the afternoons pretty much were the workshops. And this is my schedule that I did manage to narrow things down. It was not easy. Let me mention, when we arrived there, the very first thing the 4 of us did was we went to the Surge Regional Meeting. The OMD is no more. We are now part of the Central East Regional Group. And I have a cert button, but I didn't bring my delegate credential. We had hoped to meet up with other West Virginia UUs. Unfortunately, we were the only West Virginia UUs there at the time, which surprised me. There were some people from Charleston that came later. But it was really inspiring to me to see in this enormous room, probably 200 or 300 other people from all the other states that are a part of CERG now. So as we keep going and trying this regional thing out, it's gonna be very interesting. Some of these things, I'll mention some, like I went to a social witness sermon contest award winner. I'm gonna present that with nods to the author because it was so wonderful. Several of the workshops I went to though just have really stuck with me. The first one I went to, I just keep thinking about it. It was called Beyond Holidays, and it was about celebrating holidays without appropriating from other religions. And what the workshop presenters talked about was we like to sit, we celebrate all kinds of things. We have Christmas and Hanukkah celebrations here, and Native American and Wiccan holidays here and everything. And they talked about the need to not misrepresent what it is we're presenting. For example, to give the context of the holidays. For example, someone stood up and said, yes, and De Coloris is not a flower communion song. De Coloris is a song about resistance and rebellion. And this was a person who was a Mexican heritage, Hispanic heritage. And they talked about, one of the things they zeroed in on, you guys just did. And I don't 100% agree with them, but I understand their point. This thing that people do at the end, this is the American Sign Language for applause, right? Because deaf people can't hear applause, so they do this. They were saying, if you're not deaf and there's not a deaf person in the room, that's appropriating, because you're not really part of that culture and you're not doing it to communicate with that culture. I gotta say, I've worked with a lot of deaf people, and everybody I know would like to have people doing this. But I understand their point that they were making. That's why I did buy a book that I've left here, and we're gonna be using, you're gonna hear me do, and I did it some last time I was here, little background histories of some of the songs we do, or some of the readings. So I think the idea of, making sure, like when I went on some of the materials, they talked about, they profiled that someone was modeling a dashiki, I'm not sure I'm saying the word right, but it's an African costume.
Dashiki.
Dashiki.
D-A-S-H-I-K-I.
And they showed a picture of someone showing that in a catalog, and they're saying they have no respect for the symbolism of this, or the colors of the culture of this. They just see this and they're wearing this thinking, oh, I'm gonna do this and it's gonna look cute. And they contrasted that with Angelica Jolie went to India, or went to the Middle East and wore a hijab to fit in with the other women out of respect for the culture and to fit in with what other women around her were wearing. They were saying she was, she was using some of the symbolism, but she wasn't doing it to, she was doing it out of respect and to fit in, as opposed to kind of saying, look at me, look at me. She wasn't wearing it walking down the street of New York, kind of thing. So it was an interesting concept. I'm still kind of reverberating on that, and we'll
Well,
still make-
sometimes you gotta wear that stuff in other cultures, especially as a woman, so they don't.
Right, and they're saying there's nothing wrong with, there's nothing wrong with being respectful of the culture and trying to fit in. They were just saying to please keep in mind the symbolism, what the symbolism means, what the colors may mean, and the people are using things that to the culture it comes from are really very offensive, and that we need to understand that and
Right.
respect that.
So I'm doing multiple offenses here, is that?
Well, I think, no, that's,
Respect.
I think that's out of respect, and that's saying
Right.
that's included.
And it's colorful, and it's
Yes.
pretty.
That was Thursday. I also went to, by the way, I also went to the bookstore,
As we all did.
as we all did, and that's a wonderful thing to go to when you're at GA.
Oh.
It's a disaster,
It's overwhelming.
yeah, credit card, spend lots of money.
Yes, you do. And as with any other convention I've ever been to, there were a couple of workshops I walked into, listened to for 5 minutes and walked out. Because sometimes what you think it's gonna be about is not what it's about, and it doesn't work for you, and you need to know that that's okay. Another one that I went to that was very interesting was a Foz lecture, Sophia Foz lecture. It's called Nation of Religious Minorities. And I thought in particular that would be interesting for this group. The Christian share of the US population is declining, while the number of US adults who do not identify with any organized religion is growing. And this is a survey, research by the Pew Research Center. These changes are taking place across the religious landscape, affecting all regions of the country and many demographic groups. It is particularly strong against younger people. And I'm gonna just pass around, I tried to find the graphic of this in big size and I couldn't. But it's dividing people by age group, and you can see for older people, they tend to be much more traditional Christian. That's this dark blue. Where the light green is the unaffiliated or nuns. And yet, when you get down to the younger group, the unaffiliated or nuns are much bigger, and the people who identify as Christian is much smaller.
Yeah.
They're saying in 7 years, the percentage of adults who describe themselves as Christian has dropped by nearly 8 percentage points.
I think it's even more than that, because, it's like my sisters were baptized as Christians, and they don't go to Christian churches now. But I'm sure that the church that they were baptized in is still claiming them, even though they haven't been there in 40 years. That's what they do.
Right.
They still claim them, yeah.
Right. Christians dropped from about 79% in this country to about 70% or 71%. Over the same percent period, the percentage of Americans who are religiously unaffiliated, now that's not us because we are affiliated, describing themselves as atheist, agnostic, or nothing in particular, has jumped more than 6 points, from 16% to 22%. And the share of Americans who identify with non-Christian faiths, that is us, has inched up, rising 1.2 percentage points. So I think that has some real implications for what's gonna happen in the future with with our kinds of faith, our organization here. And it does speak to me that even in West Virginia, maybe we need to do a little bit more outreach here to people.
I'm
So-
intrigued because you said you have a high percentage of young people at the
Right, and there were the youth UU caucus was pretty big,
yeah, we're losing young people too.
yeah. Wiccans and UUs, according to their research, the percentages pretty much stayed the
Yeah,
same.
Well, other countries, I was interested to read, like Norway and some other countries they're going back to the old gods.
oh, absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I did bring some more materials. I know the others have already brought materials, handouts from the GA, and I did particularly pick up some Wiccan and pagan things that are out on the table.
Thank you.
Pick them up if you're interested in
Oh, and
them.
I brought my atheist and free thought books.
well, I'm just gonna talk about that in a second, hold on. One of the workshops I went to was called Organizing Our Congregations More Effectively for Social Justice. And there, the presenter's points were it's important to link with what is going on in your community right now for social justice. And it occurred to me, I'm not even, when Beckley, what do we have going? Here we have Pine Haven and Helping Hands, but what other social justice things do we
We
have
have
going
the
here?
new,
Community action, I think.
we have
Yeah.
a new drug facility for women that opened
Yeah.
recently here.
And
Um,
it talked about, that's a way of getting in the door with, as Betsy was saying, with multi-faith, working together with other organizations on local social justice issues.
Well, the Women's Resource Center would also be considered.
Yes.
So that might be something we may want to look at trying to do some things with.
That would be
Get Betsy's paper today, they're going to be having a fundraising at the, what's the name of that place on the gorge? Restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Smokies.
Smokies on the gorge, yeah, they're having a luau. If you pick up a copy of today's paper, it's in a big write-up about it
Okay,
today.
good.
Okay.
Maybe some of us could go.
Go do it. Yeah, that's a good idea, Evelyn.
Is it okay to share with one?
Mhm.
I was just wondered if it
You're
might
being
be.
taped, that's, everybody needs to know you're being taped, okay, go ahead.
Crystal, thank you. Just, threw me off a little. I just thought that it might be good to link up with some, some other churches around here where they have, members who are, many of them African American, and maybe
Right.
put heads together.
Right,
Absolutely.
yes, that would be a good idea.
Like, I don't know, just a thought.
I think those are all good thoughts, and I think that really opens the door for us to strengthen that. Just to follow up on what Debbie was saying, I did make a point of going to the UU Humanist meeting, which was not part of the official General Assembly agenda, but was something they, different groups had different meetings connected with it. And got materials on, and I'm gonna be talking to the board about, they have a program called Free Thinker Friendly Congregations. And their point was, and I hadn't thought of it until they said this, we welcome all people, regardless of religious belief. Now, we understand that means everybody, but not everybody else may understand that that means everybody, including those with no religious beliefs. We do welcome people with no supernatural beliefs, but that may not be obvious. So it talks about making language explicit in your brochure and on your website that we welcome people of all religious beliefs or none. That kind of thing. And there are just some kind of specific both things to, but it's pretty well, discuss as a congregation ways to be more inclusive and welcoming. That's what it's saying. So I think that's something we do here without even thinking about it, and I think we just need to be clear about that.
Even people who are liberal Christians,
Even people who are liberal
because
Christians.
we, in the
Well, I do
Unitarian
share things
faith,
on Facebook where, from a liberal, Christian, website.
Yes, they presented, while I was there, they presented a humanism award to a couple, speaking of being mortal, who talked about how important it is that there be death so that others can keep going, which is,
Yeah, I think it's kind of selfish to want to keep going and going.
yeah. One of the workshops I went to was called Living the Principles, and it presented a year-long curriculum for, 8-month curriculum, for studying each principle for 1 month. Now, on some of the activities, like a pizza party every Friday night, I'm not sure we're gonna be able to do. But I think the idea of taking 1 month to study the principles and looking for ways to put that principle into action, I'm gonna also bring up to the board. And Betsy, you said you've had another workshop that was similar to that. So I think that was just an intriguing idea for me, to have that as a theme.
You don't mean putting our money where our mouth is.
Yeah, I know.
Goodness sake.
yes, and that's a unique and innovative approach, isn't it?
One workshop I went to was called We Met Online, and it has us look at how the people who are looking around and they happen upon our website, what did they think about our website? And I'm listening to what they're saying, going, okay, I need to change up the website. Because it talked about really being more personal and putting out key phrases that someone looking for something would know. To talk about things that we do here that would let people know that, again, this goes along with just being more welcoming. Different activities that we do, how that people will see that phrase and think, okay, that means I would be welcome there.
And that's why I changed
Or a
our
pic-
profile and our picture on Facebook
Right,
to show people,
right. They talked
Rather
about
than the
people, not
building.
buildings.
so.
People, not, I think it's okay.
Well,
Yeah. People, not buildings, activities, show people interacting, different racial backgrounds, different, talk about, maybe some of our same-sex stuff that we're doing here, that kind of thing. Just key things that let people know that they would be welcome here.
Well, we're learning that the more we interconnect blogs, Facebook,
Yeah,
and the website, the better it works.
the better it works.
yeah.
But if you don't update it, and we've been very
Right.
relaxed in doing that, it doesn't work.
Right.
You need to update that Facebook page every week at least.
Well, it's amazing how much more traffic we get, one, if we include pictures of Nina.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes,
All your-
absolutely.
All your followers go on our,
Absolutely.
all your followers.
Anyway, but if we change the pictures, like including pictures of the youth, when we had youth, or whatever we are doing, if we include those pictures, we get more traffic.
Right.
Yeah, pictures make all the difference.
Yeah. So, there were some other things that they're gonna talk about next week, the Presidential Candidates Forum, that was very interesting, and the Ware lecture that was, Krista Tippett was wonderful, but they'll talk about that next week. Sorry, I'm gonna miss it. I'm just gonna close and let Nina talk, but let me just mention one other thing. I've been saying to everybody since we came back, we know we must be doing something right. because if you did not hear, we were picketed by Westboro Baptist Church. We
Yeah.
were there.
You were?
And they
We
sent,
were.
and they sent up the angel wings from Orlando. And they used angel wings there in Columbus.
Those huge wings
And we made
that
the local news.
people, that blocked out
Oh.
so that the demonstrators could not see
Yeah.
us, that they saw
Yeah.
those huge angel wings. And so they left.
And they left.
And the press coverage of that was all on UU.
Right,
They got very little attention, and they didn't stay long, I heard.
right. And it, the news, the local news programs focused on it, and everything was really great, so.
Newspapers, yeah.
And the focus was on standing on the side of love.
Right.
I wonder if that would be good to put on the website. We stood up to Westboro.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me also, the flood happened while we were there, and we kept bringing it up in different meetings. And do you wanna talk about, we missed it, but, okay. We kept bringing it, people hadn't heard about it, on there. But although we were a little late that morning, so we missed it, they did mention that during the beginning of one of the business sessions. And they had a moment of silence for West Virginia, I believe, is what we were told.
And what we understand also that, well, those of you who were here last week heard Paul Dazzle talking about how he activated and he connected with a lot of people at GA to get support pouring in West Virginia.
For what it's worth, there was a concert, a benefit concert yesterday at Haddad things on the riverbank in Charleston. Lawrence
Yes,
played
with
there.
Lawrence.
All of it was, all the orchestra members and singers and everybody were donated
Wow.
their skills and their time for that, and it was great. It was-
Next
there's a
year's-
place to send stuff, donations, if you want to, cash donations.
Nine?
Well, actually, it is 12:30, and I didn't really have a chance to take a look at what we did, but primarily the workshops that I went to were on building community and that sort of thing, because I'm working on my own little thing. And also about being minister. They had a really, and I will tell you more about that next week. That was really interesting.
Nina was the most organized of anybody I saw in the entire GA.
My what?
Yes, you were. Look at this.
I had a notebook all
Yeah.
organized and sorted.
With the pictures.
Lovely. Let me just mention in passing, and I know we're closing too, but there was an app
Two notebooks.
for the conference. And so, we all have that app on our devices, and that you could go to it and see what the schedule was. You could find out more about the speakers, you could post,
Comments, post
yeah,
pictures.
comments, and it's still active.
Yeah.
And-
You wanted to get song, Kathy, reach out, touch.
The closing song we're gonna do, okay, is one that they close the final session with. And everybody knows this song. If you watch TV at all in the last 20 years, you know this song. Diana Ross did the first version, I believe, or at least the most favorite. She got a little high for us, so I got a version by the Temptations. So I can't even sing the regular verses, but we can all join in the chorus.
And the chorus is printed for
And the
you.
chorus is printed for you. Dave, that song for,
And
yeah.
you'll recognize right away what company used this, I think.
Yes.
No,
Okay.
Gather.
I played it last night.
Say it again.
I'd like to get a copy of this from Cathy.
You can take that if you want. Gavin, just take it.
Thank you.